Thank you. Directors, General Manager, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we're on here today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay respect to their elders, both past, present,
Directors,
and
General Manager.
I inform all those in attendance.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we're on here today, the Wiradjuri people,
refrain from making
respect to their elders, both past, present, Directors, General Manager.
Councillor,
I inform all those. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we're on here today, the Wiradjuri people,
refrain from
pay respect
making
to their elders.
14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice.
All those. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we're on here today, the Wiradjuri people, pay respect to their elders.
14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice.
All those. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we're on here today.
I notice all directors present. Apologies. I know there's an apology from Councillor Smith. Is somebody who'd like to move that way? Moved to Councillor McAndrews, seconded Councillor Ring. Those in favour? Declare that carried unanimous. Thank you. Declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Confirmation of minutes? Somebody like to move?
Happy to move.
Second, Mayor.
Move Councillor Goodsill, seconded Councillor McAndrew. Those in favour? Against? Nobody against. Carried unanimous once again. Commemorations and announcements.
Mayor, I have two.
I have one.
Mayor, firstly, I'd like to publicly acknowledge and thank Labor Senator Tony Sheldon and his team for their assistance with our serious Lithgow aged care situation. Unfortunately, I never made the public meeting because I was away in Cessnock on an important meeting about mining and power, but I understand the meeting went well, and I'm advised that Senator Sheldon is still pursuing the issue on behalf of our community. Secondly, Mayor, it saddens me to acknowledge the sudden and unexpected death of Barbara Milne from Cullambullen. Barbara was Cullambullen. She'd worked for that community for decades. She was part of the Cullambullen Tidy Towns and part of the Progress Association. The passing was sudden and unexpected. I extend condolences on behalf of Council to Barbara's family and to her many friends.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. I have one. I'd like to acknowledge the Women's Advisory Committee in partnership with the foundations in putting on a fabulous International Women's Day event at Portland. It was very well attended. There was at least 100 women there. You were there as well, and so was the Deputy Mayor as the token blokes. And we thank you for that. So I think that kudos to the staff here who were involved in that and the foundations. It was a very well organised event and very well put together.
Councillor Coleman. Councillor Ring.
Yep, following on from Councillor Coleman, I'd like to acknowledge all the work that was done by Kelly Evans and Rich Evans in order for the International Women's Day to go ahead. I'd also like to acknowledge all the hard work that Andrew G, our local member, has done for Lithgow Aged Care since March last year.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. I've got an announcement I'd like to make too. I had a phone call today from the President of the Show Association, David Peters, and he would like to give his extreme thanks to the council staff that helped so much over the weekend. He said I couldn't thank them enough. He said they went way and beyond, so if you would pass that on, Jonathan, to the staff, because apparently they did such a wonderful job that he said, how can I go about thanking them? I said, send an email or something, but I said I'll also announce it at tonight's council meeting. So I know that there'll be a letter of thanks coming, but I just thought I'd announce that as well.
I have one, Mayor Thompson.
Yes, Councillor Goodsill.
I'd like to extend Council's condolences to the family of popular Lithgow man Francis John Mitchell, better known as Jack Mitchell, to his beloved wife Jan, children Penny, David and Beth and their families. Jack moved to Lithgow in 1958 and worked as a well-regarded dentist in Lithgow until his retirement in 1991. He was a popular member of many local clubs, Apex, the Optimus Club, Camera Club, and helped establish our local arts council. Jack had many achievements in his life, and his lifelong interest in jazz saw him recognised and awarded an OAM in 2019. He published discographies of Australian jazz music, with the first edition in 1950. He continued to add to this as he found more information, which culminated in a total of 5 editions. Jack wrote articles about jazz and books and musicians and jazz in the 20s and 30s, and he was a keen photographer of the local area. He was also a member of the Lithgow Brass Band in the 80s. I again extend council's condolences to his wife and family.
Very well put, thank you. We've certainly had some wonderful people live in our town. Public forum. Is there any other announcements? Okay, we'll move to public forum. General Manager.
Mr Mayor, we do have one item, and because of the lack of public access to tonight's meeting, I'll read it out. It's from Anthony Craig. His comments are: given Lithgow Aged Care Limited is in voluntary administration, will the council now consider taking the facility over before it's sold, with community assets lost and 168 residential aged care beds allocated to Lithgow and District gone? Over 70 residents will be forced to move out of town and 120 staff unemployed. Given Lithgow City councillors had been on the board for some years, does Lithgow Council have a legal or moral obligation to help save it? Can you confirm whether Lithgow Council is a corporation under the Corporations Act and Part D to 6 and Local Government Act Section 234 does not apply to current councillors who were on the Lithgow Aged Care Limited board and resigned? Unfortunately, getting any correct information is very difficult from people. And Mr Mayor, as would happen, I'd imagine if Mr Craig was in the room, I might be called upon to respond to some of these from an official perspective. And indeed, I have been dealing with Mr Craig last week. So in relation to will council consider taking the facility over before it's sold, I believe our position has been consistently put, and that's been communicated back to the council and sanctioned by the council, and that is that we want to be part of the solution, but we have neither the financial capacity nor the skills to take on such a facility, and we've not been asked to, but we've certainly been active in working with government and with Lithgow Aged Care to facilitate and encourage an outcome that allows the facility to continue to operate, for those beds to be utilised and for those staff to continue to be employed. The other questions that Mr Craig asked go to his, he has a view, I believe, that because people were on the board and on a separate, with a very separate hat on, they were councillors, that the two blend. They certainly do not. They are fundamentally different. They are severable. They are entirely separate. There is no nexus between the board and council. There is no commercial nexus. There's no responsibility in a legal or a moral sense, as I believe, as Mr Craig is inferring, for council to do anything other than it has been. Those would be my responses to Mr Craig and the council.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. As my understanding is, as from tomorrow, we are able to have public forum again. Can you just elaborate a little of where we stand with that?
That's right, Mr Mayor. There have been new guidelines released, and we're making the arrangements for the next ordinary meeting of council to be open to the public. Under the new guidelines, there will still be restrictions on the number of people that can attend because of social distancing requirements.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. There's no mayoral minute. I presume that concludes public forum, Mr General Manager?
Yes.
Yeah. No mayoral minutes, so we move on to the paper. 9.1, notice of motion, Councillor Statham. Can I get a seconder for that notice of motion, please?
Yeah, I'll second.
Seconded, moved Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Statham.
My apologies, I left my glasses in the car, Mayor Thompson. After reading through the management comment, I can see that making direct representatives to our local state and federal members can be a great way of advocacy. I do believe that if this is in Council's budget for 21-22, the people at the Lithgow Valley Progress Association will be very pleased to hear this. I realise that the management's comments say that, it is scheduled for replacement. It is suggested that no further action be required by Council. Council staff will contact Capity Progress Association and advise them of the intention to provide replacement street furniture. I'm very happy with that. However, I do have something that I would like to discuss in relation to that notice of motion. Item number 9 on tonight's council meeting, I notice of the motion regarding the support letter to Minister Toole from Council, unfortunately has been brought to my attention. Councillor Ring has questioned my integrity and honesty, inquiring as to the validity of the person for the Progress
Point
Association.
of order. First
No,
of
it's
all,
not.
Yes, it is, Councillor Statham. Yes, you don't attack another councillor in public, in the public. So I'm upholding the point of order.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right, yes.
So it doesn't really matter what he's done to my reputation?
There's nothing in the paper to what Councillor Ring has done. If it's on Facebook, I get plenty of things written about me on Facebook.
No,
I
this
can't
has
bring them
come
up in
from-
a council meeting.
This has come from the Progress Association themselves. They're
Irrespective
disgusted.
of that, I won't have it at the council meeting. So I'm ruling it out
I'm
of
glad
order.
they're watching tonight, Mayor Thompson.
That's fine.
Thank you.
That's fine.
No problems whatsoever.
Can I just ask a question of clarity? Is that all right?
Yes.
Can I just ask a
Well,
question?
we got the seconder.
Yeah,
You've got to-
oh, well, wait till...
Yeah, Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to the matter.
Right, Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, what are we actually moving?
I don't know now.
Because that
the
hasn't
way-
been stipulated, so...
The way that
we
I
could
understand it at
actually
the moment
get
is,
what's being
Councillor
moved.
Statham, if I can just make
Yeah.
an observation from here. The way that I understand it at the moment is that Councillor Statham is withdrawing the notice of motion. Is that clear?
Well, with the management's comment, I don't have a choice. I'm quite happy to withdraw the notice of motion. I was asked by the Progress Association at Capity to put forward this notice of motion. I did so in good faith. And I'm more than delighted if the council is going to put the new roof on the amenities out there and another table and chairs set. I think the Capity Valley will be absolutely delighted to hear that news. There is no point in any more conversation.
Okay, so the notice of motion is withdrawn, so therefore there is no motion. Okay, so we move to the next one. Notice of motion once again, Councillor Statham. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Seconded, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. The people that use the heated pool that are pensioners are absolutely delighted that they're able to go into that heated pool free of cost. And they don't take that for granted. They feel very privileged to have that happen. There are several people who I won't name that are doing rehabilitation purposes after shoulder reconstructions, knee reconstructions and hip reconstructions. These people have been travelling to Bathurst and Katoomba regularly at a cost to them when they feel they could be going to the Lithgow heated pool. They have been using dumbbells for a very long time, free of charge. They've been grateful for that. They do not take that for granted. However, they feel now that the other heated pools in our area and further west are using these pieces of equipment free of charge. And $2 is a very minimal charge. But if you're having 5 lessons a day, your wife and your husband, that counts up to 20 lessons a week, $20 a week. $20 a week out of a pensioner's pay is a considerable amount of money. They also realise it's probably costing them $20 a week to go to Katoomba and Bathurst. They would like to use their own local facility. At the end of the day, when you add up how many people were using that pool, and at $2 to hire the dumbbells, it's quite insultive to think that they would have to charge $2 each time they want to use them. I feel it's pretty unfair. I don't think it's a life or death situation. However, I think the pool now not to be able to distribute dumbbells until July, these people now are going to continue to go to Katoomba and to Bathurst heated pools to have that equipment use. Now, they could go and buy them themselves. I realise that. But why would you stop something that was going so well? I'd heard so many positive replies to say the staff down there were helping them with the rehabilitation. It was going along very, very well. And then all of a sudden they get this letter to say there'll be no more dumbbells till after July, and there will be a fee incurred after July of $2 per dumbbell per day. I think it's worth looking at. I'm only doing what I was asked to do. And in my recommendation, I just say let Lithgow City Council support the aged pensioners in our local government area by the return of the equipment back to the pool, the dumbbells, and for rehabilitation purposes at the Lithgow heated pool, no fee apply now or after the 1st of July. I mean, I know we're looking after council's financial interest, and that's what we have to do also as a council. But for not a many, I don't know many hundreds of dollars you would earn in 1 year, but I doubt if it would be 1,000. And these people are going to continue to leave our pool and go to Bathurst and Katoomba. I feel it's a pretty small fee to pay or to not put on a fee for these people. They don't very often, we don't hear from pensioners very often, but I think we need to help them out in this particular instance.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. 1 in 4 in Lithgow are over the age of 65, and the population generally wants us to look after our aged pensioners. Supporting our aged pensioners keep them healthy, and it keeps them in their homes longer, and that will benefit all of society in the long run.
Any other comments?
Mayor, could I ask for some clarification? I'm a bit lost. Councillor Stathan said that they're going to Bathurst and other places and it costs them money. So that if they go to Bathurst, it's costing them. And if they come to Lithgow, it's going to cost them $2 a day. So I'm trying to understand why where there's a cost at Bathurst and there's a cost at Lithgow. I understand the reason for the $2 cost is because of the new procedures for cleanliness arising out of COVID. It's more work for our staff at the facility. I think it's a reasonable request. I expect that this would be happening at other indoor heated pools, i.e. Bathurst, Katoomba, Orange, Dubbo. I don't see anything that's overly overbearing in relation to this. It's come about because of COVID and extra cleanliness required.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'd like to support Councillor Stathan in this motion. I doubt that actually many people are going to go to Bathurst or Katoomba about this. People aren't going to be trying to save money by costing them to do that. But I support the motion regardless, because $2, by the time you've got the $2 and you've collected it and you've gone through the process of collecting it, then you go through the process of banking it. It's all such a rigmarole. It's all just hardly worth it. It's such a minor amount that it should just be part of the process of being able to swim at a local swimming pool for aged people who will benefit from it. I think it's just a sensible thing to do, and I support the motion.
Councillor Goodsall.
I think there are many vulnerable individuals and families in our community who could also be paying fees for equipment. Rehabilitation comes in many different forms and ages. If equipment hire was to change, and I don't believe it should change, to be free for aged pensioners, then it should be free for all residents and all families and individuals on benefits, healthcare, not just a selected group of our aged care who already get in for free. I believe the charge is reasonable and we would be setting a very unfair precedent.
Thank you, Councillor Goodsall. Any other comment, councillors? I shall put the motion then. Those in favour? Those against? I declare the motion carried.
Could we get a show of hands on that? Not a show of hands, a count of who voted which way?
Oh, it's for all, sorry. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, can those for, please? Those against? I declare the motion lost.
Again, could we get the people who voted for it and against it announced, as we normally do on these matters?
We certainly can, yes. Yes, those for, Councillor Goodwin, Statham, Leslie and Coleman. Those against, Ring, McAndrew, Goodsall and Thompson. And the casting vote from the Mayor is against. Question, we move to item 10, question with notice. Councillor Leslie, could you answer that for me, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
It's got nothing, you asked the question, Councillor Leslie. We're going to give the...
Yes, I'd like to read it out.
Oh, fair enough, you can read it out.
Will this set a precedent for councillors at all future council meetings, or does it only apply to me?
Yeah, thank you. Mr General Manager.
Mr Mayor, I've provided management comment in response to that question. That's under the management comment. In short, this council follows the code of meeting practice as it must whenever a point of order is called.
I wonder, Mr Mayor, if I could get an answer to the question.
I'll certainly answer the question, and it's in 10.14 of our code of meeting practice. While an amendment is being considered, debate must only occur in relation to the amendment and not to the original motion. Debate on the original motion is to be suspended while the amendment to the original motion is being debated. Thank you. So I shall put that to the council that the question has been answered. Those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimous. Thank you. We move to 11.1, staff reports.
I move that the committees
Happy to
remain the
second.
same, Mayor, but with a removal on on the recommendation. I note the second last committee on page 11 of 55 in the recommendation is the steering committee Lithgow to Kings Plains Water Transfer Pipeline Project. That's never met and I don't expect it will meet. So I don't see the purpose of that anymore.
Can I get a second to that, Councillor Goodsall?
There's one other issue, Mayor. I note a change in the economic development from all councillors to a proposal of Mayor and Free Council. I don't agree with that. My motion is putting forward that they all remain the same, and that would be all councillors.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Coleman. You're still going to second that, Councillor Goodsall? Thank you. Councillor McAndrew.
I don't think I need to say any more, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Goodsall.
I was going to nominate myself for the Economic Development Committee, but if everyone's happy that all councillors remain on that, I'm happy with that as well. And moving forward into the new term for elected councillors, I'd like to see a fairer distribution of councillor representation across all committees. Some councillors have 10 representations, others have 4. And also agree with the General Manager to consolidate particular smaller committees moving forward, just really smart time management for all.
Yeah, I do agree. There's only, I think there's only four more council meetings until the next council election, so it's prudent most probably that the next council elects the councillors to the committees. Yeah. So, Councillor Ring.
Just on the amendment, Mayor Thompson, I'm actually a representative on the ARIC committee, which is not listed on there, just so that can be noted into the minutes.
Oh, that's, Mayor, that's Central Tablelands Line
Central
Council Audit
Tablelands,
Committee.
yeah.
I'm happy for that to be the Mayor and Councillor Ring. I understand Councillor Ring was elected to that position. Yeah, that needs to be fixed.
Thank you.
I know some, sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor. I know some committees take up a lot of time, but I was sort of looking at an Indigenous committee at some stage or something akin to that in the future. So I don't know, I think we've spoken to Mr. Butler offline about it, and I think somewhere in the future we should be looking at some type of local Indigenous committee on council.
Yeah, fair enough. We are, well, I think that in the next, on next Monday, we've got the Indigenous people coming in to address council at a information session, so we'll listen to their concerns then and maybe move on with the next council or set it up before the next council. But
Mayor Thompson, I strongly believe that the Economic Development Committee should have attendance for all councillors.
yeah, I think we've already discussed that. Yep.
I realise that, and on a number of occasions I went to put my hand up to be on at least 2 other committees I would like to have been on, and I was voted out. So, and skill set is a whole day, several days a year. It's not just a half an hour meeting. It is a whole day from 9 till 5, at least 5 times a year. So it's quite a consuming committee.
Thank you, Councillor Statham.
Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, thank you. Just going on the back of Councillor Goodwin in mentioning the Indigenous Committee, I'd also like to see a multicultural committee as well into the future, but I'm just putting that out there for the moment. I'm happy with the committees as they are, but yeah, in the future when the new council is elected.
Thank you. Okay, right, a reply, Councillor?
Yeah,
McKenna?
just very briefly, based on the comments of Councillor Goodwin and Councillor Coleman, this is simply putting in place what we already have. There's nothing precluding an extra committee being formed at any time moving forward.
Okay, I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous, thank you. We move to Building and
I'd like
Development, 11.2.1, Lachlan Sims, Development Planner, Department Development and Planning. So we've got the DA 168/02, earthworks at 14 Claret Ash Avenue, Southbound Fells. Councillor,
Yeah, I'd like to move
Goodwin.
to defer.
I'll second that, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to move to defer. Yeah, I'm deferring. My reasons,
Is the seconder right for the
are
deferment?
you
there?
right with the deferral, Councillor Statham?
I'll listen to the reasons
Okay.
first, thank you.
Well,
I'm happy to second the deferral.
Thank you.
okay. I've just recently received some correspondence from local residents of serious concerns with the water flow issues, particularly given the rainfall that we have at the moment. I understand that the applicant has answered all the council's questions and from the public submissions as well. However, I think this is something councillors should have a very serious look at. Has the flood study been completed in consultation with Water New South Wales? And why is the applicant allowed to pipe in to council's land and make a basin when the applicant removed a basin in 2003? These are serious issues, and it's really affecting the local residents below this area, and they've written in some submissions that I've distributed to council tonight, and I'd like to defer so we can have a look at the issues that have been brought to me.
So virtually have an on-site meeting, is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, an on-site meeting. Yep.
Councillor Coleman?
Yeah, look, I support the deferral because I've had a question as well in regards to it. The question that's come to me, is it appropriate that a development on private land extends onto council-owned land in order to make it work? I have real issues regarding that, so that's why I'm supporting the deferral, because I've had that question to me today.
Mayor, if I may, I speak in support of the motion by Councillor Goodwin. I come here tonight not knowing some of this information. I'm advised tonight, and I've got some photos in front of me showing water absolutely gushing down through the neighbouring properties. Now, I suppose we expect that at the moment with water gushing everywhere, but I never knew until tonight that there was a impediment to water, a dam for want of a better word, and it's now been demolished. So in other words, it's a free running water down onto neighbouring properties. So that's a major change. I understand it's about earthworks and moving on, but I didn't know, as I said until tonight, that those earthworks included the removing of a dam which stopped the flooding onto neighbours' properties. So I think the deferral and an on-site meeting is a sensible way of moving forward with this.
Thank you, Councillor McAndrew. Councillor Leslie?
I'm just wondering, so that the staff don't have to start from scratch, perhaps we could get some sort of details of what questions we're wanting to ask so that we can get those answers when we have this meeting.
Who do I ask? Who do I get to that table? Jonathan?
Oh, well, Mr Mayor, in preparing for the meeting, I guess we'd be canvassing the councillors about the representations they've received and also chasing any submissions or other information that you have, and then we'll craft, we'll be prepared for that public meeting. So if councillors have any information or names of residents or submissions, forward those to Andrew Muir or Paul Cashel, and they'll deal with those.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I've given, Mr Muir a copy of this. I'll also give the General Manager and all the councillors a copy of the submissions that I have from the resident.
Thank you. Any other comment, councillors? Right to reply, councillor Goodwin?
Sorry, Mr Mayor.
Oh, sorry, councillor Goodwin.
I just don't understand. Is this deferring this? Is that against the original DA and the work that's already been done, or is it actually just on this modification to the DA that's on council land? I thought that the only reason this was coming tonight was because it now involved council land. What does deferring it do?
Mr General Manager. Oh, Mr Muir, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The only thing that could be deferred would be the modification. The current application stands on its own.
Thank you. Any other commentary, councillors? Right to reply, councillor Goodwin?
No, it's all easy.
I shall put that then. Those in favour of deferral? Carried unanimous.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Move councillor Goodwin, councillor Goodsall, seconded councillor Goodwin. Councillor Goodsall.
Really well done to Andrew Parry and his team. This is another cause for celebration, I believe. It's important to celebrate the hard work of our council staff, councillors, and the valuable contributions and support of the state and federal governments. One of the most rewarding things about being a councillor is being part of and watching great attractions and improved services come to fruition in our community. The Adventure Playground, Pump Track, Farmers Creek Shared Pathway, connecting bridges, the flood mitigation work done along Farmers Creek in the past, which is currently protecting our community, seeing the positive transformation of our solid waste facility and the exciting new space up there. Both Councillor Goodwin and I had strategic plans for the bike trails in our councillor initiatives, and lo and behold, staff had been working tirelessly away in the background and come up with a commitment, a comprehensive, well thought out plan to establish and solidify our reputation in this area. It's a fabulous start. We have plenty of space to add all bike trails all over our local government area. It's a great way to begin diversifying our city, taking advantage of our perfect natural environment with positive health and wellbeing outcomes for all. I can't wait for it to come about. Build it and they will come.
Thank you. Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, very happy for this to be placed on exhibition. However, why can funding not be sourced from the current VPAs we are approving this evening? There'll be $609,600 in VPA money for council tonight alone that we'll be voting on. Surely a project as important as this one qualifies as part of that money.
Councillor Coleman.
I have a question. Has this been brought to the Environmental Advisory Committee? I'm on that committee, but I can't remember it being discussed. Perhaps Councillor Ring could, through you, Chair, through you, Mayor?
Yeah, it did go to a information session. That's the only time that I can remember it coming. Beg your pardon.
We would have discussed the plan of management for Hassans Walls, and this would have to be consistent with the plan of management.
The reason I ask that question is that the purple copper butterfly, which is the Lithgow butterfly, potentially may occur in these locations. And considering it is a natural environment, we need to ensure that proper process is implemented to ensure habitats are protected. So I believe that the final report should include advice from the Environmental Committee as well. I'd just like to make that comment.
Mr.
Isn't that the 60?
Mr. Muir?
just want to be careful.
I guess in general I would agree that was actually the intention of recommendation number 2, or part of the intention, where it says the strategy be placed on public exhibition for a period of 28 days and other key stakeholders consulted. We've had a brief discussion in-house who those stakeholders might be, and the types of interests we believe which might be best represented would be by the membership of the Environmental Advisory Committee, so that we'll be looking at providing some presentation to the committee. That's correct.
Mayor,
That's fabulous, thank you.
I have, sorry,
Councillor Leslie?
I was wondering if there was an Environmental Assessment Committee meeting in the next 28 days. I don't...
Mr Mayor?
I'm not sure if there is, but it wouldn't matter. We'd seek to get the membership together during that period. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor, Mayor,
I'd like to speak on this matter, but I'll let Councillor McAndrew go first.
No, go on, Councillor Leslie.
Thank you. There was I raised in this place some time back the idea of having a fun run, a trail right across the top of Hassans Walls and back around. I'm not quite sure whether this is related, but it certainly relates to the Hassans Walls area. So has that been raised in any administrative area for consideration? It did seem to get, general approval from yourself, Mr. Mayor, and other councillors. I was just wondering, has that progressed in any way at all? I'm checking out Mr. Never mind. Thank you.
No, look, I'm very, very supportive of it, and I think if Mr Edgecombe has just about finished a study of the halfway track going up at Hassans Walls Lookout.
Mayor, I had a question on that before
Yeah,
Mr Edgecombe gets up. Look, I support the proposal, but the questions that have been asked to me are, well, where are we up to with the Hassans Wall Road, single lane, one way, etc. Trials that we were going to put in place. I had the fortune of going out and addressing the Rydal bike event. There were 300 entrants in that, and I'm not just counting their families and supporters. So if we're going to have a massive event like that in this area, we need to know what we're doing with the access to and from Hassans Walls and what it is and how it is. So, I'm asking where that's up to, because if we're looking at the number of people, which is good that I saw at Rydal, you put all them on Hassans Walls, and we need to know what we're doing with people, how people get up there and how they get down and how they stop there and all the lights. We need to know where we're up to with those trials in relation to the access and in and out of Hassans Walls.
Thank you. Mr Edgecombe, if you could throw some light on where we're up to with the Hassans Walls.
Just very briefly, I acknowledge it has taken some time since we last discussed this, but staff are entirely committed to other tasks within council. It's been a bit of a rough few months, but we, having inquired about this last week, we're about 90% of the way through the design and feasibility study. There's some additional traffic analysis that needs to be done at the intersecting points at the bottom and the top of the lookout, and I feel that it should be to the before the council at the next council meeting.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes, Councillor Ring.
Look, it is a good report. In the report, it does talk about $60,000 being allocated theoretically in next year's budget for a fauna and flora survey. No works will be undertaken until that survey is done and there are appropriate environmental studies. What I find disappointing is we have a massive amount of open space with focus purely on Hassans Walls. We have a major event annually up at Rydal. I'd like to see a strategy that looks at how we can develop a series of tracks throughout our LGA, not just Hassans Walls. Hassans Walls is a nice, easy mark. You've already got a track there, it's existing, you've got the plan and management. It's an easy, low-hanging fruit. We need to be looking at how we can build on this across the entire LGA, not just on our land. We need to encourage state forests, we need to encourage national parks to also construct facilities that will benefit our community. But it is a good report that's been tendered.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Ring. Just before is there any other councillors want to speak on this? Just before I ask for the right of reply from Councillor Goodsall, the question was asked by Councillor Goodwin about VPA money being used for that. Can somebody give me an answer on that, or can it be used, or?
That'd be something, we're actually doing a review of our contributions at the moment and looking at, as part of that, the VPAs that have been submitted, making sure that we're properly complying with our obligations and properly planning for the expenditure in accordance with those VPAs. It may well be as part of that review, and I can't guarantee it at this stage, that as long as we're talking about a possible capital work and not, for example, a study or something like that, that it may be possible. But that's something which we can certainly investigate.
Thank you, Mr Muir.
Mayor Thompson, may I just comment on Mr Muir's statement on that? I actually thought the VPA was given by developers and they actually had some sort of a say where that development for the VPA was going to be. It was going to be in around their subdivisions with swings or seating. That's what it used to be. I don't know whether that's changed. For instance, the VPA for John Mackey Drive, you know, there's been a lot of talk about what's going to happen to that. I would hate to see that money come into Lithgow, as well Errowang would hate to see money go from their voluntary planning agreements into Lithgow.
I think the answer to the question is that a VPA, depending on how it's worded in the negotiation between the council and the developer, can apply to an area or a site or have some sort of nexus, for example, with the location of the development, but there are also others that don't. And that's what we need to make sure that we conduct a proper audit to make sure we're up to, and try and ascertain, for example, what monies might be untied, which might mean we might be able to use it for these types of things.
Thank you.
Mayor Thompson, could I just make one point in relation to what Councillor Statham said? We actually moved a resolution that the monies, the VPA from the John Mackey Drive development, were to be spent in Portland.
Yep.
That was a council resolution.
Councillor Goodsall, right of reply.
I would hate to see the VPAs being used for this. I think that the voluntary planning agreements are for open spaces, community facilities and infrastructure. And if we can secure funding from the government to pay for the Hassans Walls bike trails, then that's what we should do and keep our money.
Very good. Okay, thank you. I shall put that then. That's been the right of reply. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Economic Development proposed agreement for access and public road dedication.
I'll move that way.
Moved.
Happy with the second.
Moved Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor Ring. Councillor Statham.
It is a very comprehensive report. I think that it's been something that's been going on for quite some time. I believe that the council staff have done some very good work on this. It's very plain, very easy to follow, and you know, I think it would be unwise to go ahead, not to go ahead with this.
Councillor Ring.
Mayor Thompson, nothing occurs out here until the bridge is constructed. That underpins this. And until that bridge is constructed, there are no works. So look, I'm happy with what's been presented to council. I'm happy with the way it's been worded. It protects the residents out there and it assures that we will get a facility if works proceed.
Mayor, if I could get some clarification. It was a difficult report to read, and as you and Councillor Statham would know, this matter has got some history. In fact, was one of the largest on-site residents meeting that I've ever attended in my time on council. And Councillor Ring has rightfully, I think, put what the report talks about. The residents, in my view at that time, were clearly of the opinion that no physical work would occur on the site until such time as the bridge was constructed. What the report doesn't, that's why I want to ask some clarification from the relevant staff person, what the report doesn't say is it work on the existing bridge? Is it a new bridge? If it's work on the existing bridge, of course, then there needs to be ways that the current residents can get in and out of their properties during the time of construction. And I know the report talks about access 1, access 2, temporary 1, temporary 2. If I'm reading it right on page 19, there will be a construction certificate in respect to the bridge works, and then once from the date that the Valley View commences the bridge works, and there'll be another temporary access licence, but I'm trying to understand exactly what does that mean. If I'm reading the report right, all that second licence does is allow for someone to go up and start pegging it out, but no earth moving occurs until such time as the bridge is completed. If that's the case, then I support the proposal. But if I could get some clarification from Mr Muir, I think.
Mr Muir.
Probably not a bad way to express it. There are sort of two temporary accesses proposed. The first one relates to after the construction certificate is issued for the bridge works, and that will allow some temporary access across the land to get access to do things such as survey works, etc., which would then allow the proponent to put together an application for what's now known as a subdivision work certificate. Was previously known as a construction certificate. The second access is critical in that even though we have a condition in the consent which we think covers the situation regarding the construction of the bridge, and it is a duplicated bridge, my understanding, so it's to that has to occur before any subdivision works on site occur. We think that's covered off. We also, I guess, had in the front of our mind when our staff were negotiating this that there certainly was a history and a concern in the community about the order in which things happen. So what we then did try to cement in the agreement, we're confident that we have done that. In the agreement, there are a couple of things that has to happen in relation to the secondary licence, and the date that the council issues the compliance certificate in respect of the bridge works. Now, compliance certificate means the bridge is finished, and that's when there are two things that has to happen, and one of those is that before the second temporary access can proceed.
Just before you leave, just a question from me, Mr Muir, if I could. The bridge itself, have we got to get permission from Railway or from the leasee that's leasing the railway to put that bridge across, or is it...
The developer does, yes.
The developer does.
And we understand that there have been previously some approvals given by John Holland Rail, but they also has to go back through to the rail regulator as well. But that's now reoccurring at the moment. But I think there's been some changes in sort of structural design or something like that.
I know, but based on what's just been said, it raises a question. Do we know the side of the bridge? Because if it's either side, it's going to affect those close landowners. So do we know where exactly the side of the bridge is going to be and what?
My recollection was there were conceptual designs, I think, which were done with the application, but we haven't seen a final design yet, no.
Councillor Coleman, a question for...
Yes, please, if I could. Considering that council is currently preparing a flood mitigation plan, is there any implications, especially considering we don't know where the construction of the bridge is going to occur, and we've seen so much rain just in these past few days? My concern is, is that going to affect anything there?
I don't think I've ever seen the railway flood. Is that where we're...
Well, I'm just asking the question.
Or I don't know.
No? No? Okay.
Yep. Any other commentary, councillors?
Just right of reply. I'm a little concerned, like Councillor McAndrew is, that we've all been through this before, and we have had a lot of unhappy residents, as you know, Mayor Thompson, at Marangaroo. We still have to try and progress with development in our area. I would like a little bit more of an update on the bridge. I did move this as written, but thinking about the bridge, the new bridge, is it going to affect the landowners getting in and out of Marangaroo? We do need to know that. I feel that is essential. I wasn't sure whether Mr Muir has given us a really assertive answer in that regard. Mr Muir, could you just clarify that, please?
Well, I can't at this stage provide you detail on the bridge design, but if that is a concern for council, then perhaps when that's known, that could come back for a further discussion.
I think that would be wise.
Irrespective of what happens, the bridge has got to be built before any earthworks can be done
Yes, I
on
understand
the
that.
subdivision. And when I seen them out there surveying what I thought was the new bridge, it was on the inboy side of the golf club, on the inboy side of the bridge, where the bridge is at the moment. That's where I saw the surveyors working anyway. Okay, no more commentary. We've had the right to reply. I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous, thank you. Responsible cat ownership.
Happy to move.
Moved Councillor
Happy
Coleman.
second.
Seconded Councillor Ring. Councillor Coleman.
Look, thank you very much to the staff for this report. It actually came off the back of a notice of motion that I put to council back in January. I have a couple of questions. Is there a reason for the spike in November, December 2020? Are we continuing with the partnerships that are detailed in this report, which are great? And when cats are actually released back to the owners, are they encouraged to desex, or are they told they need to desex them?
Have you got those three questions?
Yeah, right. I'll get the first one first.
Sorry, I go again. Is there a reason for a spike in November, December 2020? Like it says 26 and 14, there was a spike there. And I'm assuming, or I won't assume, are we going to continue with the partnerships? And desexing, what happens when we release them back out, or when people come and collect their pets? Are they encouraged to desex, or do we get them desexed?
In relation to the spike, none that I know of, other than I am advised by the staff that what can happen if you get a couple of litters of kittens, that can go up very, very quickly. So, yeah. So that can impact on those numbers. In relation to continuing our partnerships, for example, with Operation Cat, yep, absolutely. It's been too good to pass up. They've been terrific, and I must say the assistance we get from the local vets too is fantastic. In relation to desexing of the cats upon their release, if they are being released back to the cat's rightful owner, we can't make that happen, but we can encourage it. But the thing that does supposed to provide that encouragement is the fact that what the government has done with the cat registration and the ownership, they actually have to pay, if the cat is not desexed, an additional fee every year for the life of the cat. So there is an additional cost associated with that.
Finish, Councillor Coleman? Yeah. Councillor Ring.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, it's a very good report. The biggest threat to our native wildlife are feral cats. Some of those do stray from their owners and go bad, but there's a massive problem with feral cats in our community. This is good, this is educating people. Eventually the state government will bring in legislation with cats having to be enclosed or kept in enclosures, but we do have a problem in this LGA and most rural LGAs with feral cats and feral animals.
Any other commentary, councillors?
Just in question in relation to the response from Mr Muir. If there's an owner that has a problem cat that keeps getting out and creating issues, what happens? We just keep handing it back, or we do something about it?
Good question. Councillor Muir, Mr.
Oh, I've got a promotion. There is my understanding, I think I might recall from from talking to the staff in the press release, for it's a nuisance cat, I think there is a fine that can be issued. There is a fine that can be issued for that topic.
Thank you. No other commentary, councillors? Councillor Coleman, right, a reply? Right, I shall put that then, councillors. Thank you. Carried unanimous. Planning agreement for
I'll move that way. Thank you, Mayor Thompson.
O'Carra Street. Thank you, councillor.
Happy to second.
Councillor Statham.
This is exciting news. 81 residential sites. So far, no submissions have been received, which I think is great. 6,600 per site for a VPA, which I think is wonderful for council. Just have one question. Has the developer been informed of Section 64, because it is placed at Bowen Fells, this development?
I believe so, but I'll get Mr Muir to answer that.
I must admit I have to take that one on notice because we're just reporting the planning agreement tonight, not the subdivision. My assumption would be yes, but this subdivision was approved a little while ago, so I would have to take that one on notice.
Is it possible, Mr Newell, to make sure that these residents, the developers, do know there is a Section 64?
That practice for new applications has been put in place. What I'm saying is this application is a little bit dated now, so I'm not sure if at that time that practice was in place then.
Be great if you could inform them, please.
Okay, any other commentary? Councillor Goodsall? Oh, sorry. No, Councillor Coleman, sorry.
I echo everything that Councillor Statham has stated, and I'm glad that the developer is aware of the new procedure. I would like to see the monies put aside to utilise in that particular area to improve open spaces. I think it's really important that voluntary planning agreements are done in the area that the development is actually occurring. It's important that we provide green spaces, open spaces, equipment for the families that eventually are going to move into that development. That's really important.
Yeah.
I agree with Councillor Coleman on that one. I have no problem endorsing this draft VPA. What I would like to know is, and it's another question around the voluntary planning agreements, where does it go for open spaces and community facilities? It's over $500,000 for this development. Does it just go in and around this development, which every other councillor has asked? Is there, and there's also some different language in the report. Some of it says, states community facilities and open spaces, and sometimes it says community facilities and infrastructure. If I could get some clarification through you, Mr Mayor.
Mr Muir?
I think some of the questions that are coming tonight really relate to some of the work which we're doing, which we would anticipate, and councillors might have seen a little memo that I left on their desk this evening, that we are doing some work on this particular matter because we need to make sure that council has in place. We have a policy at the moment, a voluntary planning agreement policy, but it doesn't really extend to some of these issues as to such as providing some guidance when we're negotiating on amounts, some guidance in relation to the areas where funds might be targeted, and all these things will have to be examined, and we anticipate that we bring a report back in relation to that, because at the moment it is collected. A lot of the VPAs that have been negotiated are for broad community facilities, so it is broad where they could be attributed to, as long as you're complying with the legislation. I think all I can really say at the end of the day is that we're working on it, and we'll be reporting back in relation to that.
Mayor Thompson, before Mr Muir steps down, as I said, with James Mackey, the voluntary planning agreement, council moved to have that money used in Portland. Is there anything precluding us from moving an amendment to this that the bulk of the money is used in the Tweed area of Lithgow, Tweed Road area?
Probably not precluding. I suppose a comment, I'm also looking to the General Manager that rather than making a decision on the run, perhaps it might be better to await a report to come back and look at it in a more strategic fashion.
Yeah, good answer. Yep. Any other commentary, councillors? Councillor Statham, not a reply?
Oh no, I think this has been something a long time coming. Mr Muir, sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, is the same Tweed Road subdivision? I'm sorry, I've jumped the page.
This one's out at
I've
the
jumped the
back of-
page, I'm sorry.
yeah, this one's out at the back of Land
Yes, that's
Street.
correct, yes, correct. No, I'll take that back, thank you, sorry.
I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous, thank you. Planning agreement for
I'll
multi-dwelling.
move
happy
that way,
to
thank you.
Moved, Councillor McAndrew. Who seconded?
Mayor Thompson, I did move that first.
Did you? Oh, well, councillor,
Happy to exceed as seconder, Mayor.
you'll have to speak a little bit lower, Councillor McAndrew. You come over the top. Righto, Councillor Statham and Councillor McAndrews. Councillor Statham.
Through you, Mr Mayor, could I please ask Mr Muir, is this a subdivision at Tweed Road that has had a couple of different site inspections from time to time over the last 6 years?
Essentially, yes. I think the last one was
October last year?
Yeah, and primarily this development, once again, as all things development, there's some complexities because it relates to a Torrens title subdivision, a strata title subdivision, and the development of some units in a staged sense. But we have had several on-site inspections over the years. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr Muir. This has been an ongoing subdivision for many years on council. I do believe that seeing there's no submissions received is really heartening, because at a couple of the public meetings there was a lot of angst in the area, and I think it was great that council staff were there to try and help these residents that had concerns. And I think that also we're getting more voluntary planning money from this, which is quite sizable. So with no submissions, I'm very happy to move this motion.
Yes, Mayor, happy to support, and I make the point in picking up some of the comments by Councillor Statham. The DA was approved in September 2020. This is simply about the VPA. The reason I wanted to speak to it is that we've just dealt with a VPA of 6,600 per lot, and this one is 5,000 per dwelling. Now, I note that Mr Muir has given all councillors a memorandum dealing with it, but seeing we're in a public meeting, I think it would be good if he could publicly speak to his memorandum so it's clear what the differences are between individual VPAs and the complexities in relation to one based on lot and one based on dwelling. But I think it would be appropriate for Mr Muir to speak publicly to his memorandum.
Thank you, Councillor McAndrew. Mr Muir.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The current amount which we seek to negotiate if an offer is made to enter into a planning agreement for subdivisions is $6,600. That has escalated over the years. I think it was previously 6,200, then 6,000 before that. But we do agree, in light of the work that we are doing, that there needs to be some consistent framework in relation to that, albeit that what you can't do under the legislation is ask the developer for the VPA per se, and you certainly can't say, we'll enter into a VPA, and if we do that, we'll issue a consent. There are certain ways you have to go about it, and there's certain probity considerations. In relation to, and probably just to emphasise that the VPA is offered by the developer. With the development for the other development, where there were a number of dwellings, what was offered was that amount. There were some differences in relation to the development, and that's what the council accepted in finality. But we do think it would be of great assistance, not only in the negotiation of these things, but also properly ensuring our expenditures on proper community type facilities, that we do this work and we come back with some recommendations to council in how we collect and expend VPAs.
Can I ask a question, please?
Councillor Ring.
Just to clarify, this is purely a voluntary payment. We cannot specify the amount. And if someone only offers $3,000, then...
You can't withhold the consent on the basis that you're not
Exactly.
happy with
I just want to make sure.
You're not happy with what they've offered.
Yeah.
I have to say that in all my time in a number of these voluntary planning agreements, I can only think of one occasion where a developer has chosen not to make the offer.
Mayor, if I may, it is messy because a developer picking up what Councillor Ring has just said, a developer could say, well, I'm not giving you anything.
That's the legislation.
Yep, Mr Mayor. Like Councillor McAndrew said, we've approved the DA last year, and this is specifically just endorsing the draft voluntary planning agreement.
Yeah. Any other councillors want to speak on this? Councillor Statham, would like to reply.
Just Mr Muir just mentioned a $6,000 dwelling per dwelling. In the recommendation, it does have $5,000. I guess it's just $1,000 here or there.
I think Councillor, Mr Muir was talking about, he was talking about per lot when he was talking about $6,000,
Okay.
$5,000 for a dwelling.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy with that, thank you.
Okay, shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Against? Councillor Leslie. We move to 11.3,
Happy to
payment of
move.
tax equivalents.
Happy to second.
Second, move Councillor Ring, second Councillor McAndrew. Councillor Ring.
I think this is a very good report. It's a very good outcome for council. We're legally entitled to transfer this money into our general operation funds, and this will greatly assist the bottom line of council. I think this is a good outcome, and in future years, if we're in a capacity position to do it, I think we should do it. It brings another $231,000 into general operations. I think it's a good outcome for the community and for council.
So McAndrew.
Yes, I agree, Mayor, when looking at the report for the 2019-20 year Council Sewer Fund report, a surplus after tax calculation of $637,000. So, and tax equivalents were calculated at 232. It moves out of that fund and moves into the general purpose fund where council can more use it appropriately as we move forward with costs.
Thank you. Any other commentary? Councillor Coleman?
Look, I understand that the sewer fund is actually in surplus, but if we move funds from the sewer fund into the general fund, the question I have, do we still have enough to address challenges of our sewer infrastructure? It's regional councils really we struggle with infrastructure in regards to sewer. Yeah, I just want to know that, please.
Mr Buckins.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Council over the last 8 to 10 years has spent significant amounts of money on their sewer infrastructure upgrades with the 3 new STPs. A lot of the work that now comes about is due to development in particular areas, and that work that is required to support development in the area is essentially paid for through developer contributions. There's sufficient money in reserves as well as through the revenue to support our ongoing renewals with current revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commentary, councillors? Right or reply, Councillor Ring? No? I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Uh, 11.3.2.
I'll move
Move
that,
with
thank you.
amendments.
I'll move.
Move with amendments.
I'll move.
Move, councillor.
Mayor, I'm moving the...
Have I got are you moving...
Well, I've got to change the recommendation, Mayor, so the second I better listen to that first.
Yep.
I'm moving number 1 stays the same. Number 2, council support the development of a local procurement policy for purchasing and tendering. Such a policy be limited to the provisions suggested in this report.
So just taking out the word should?
Yep.
Yep, I see.
I'll second that.
Second that. Right, Councillor McAndrew.
Yes, Mayor, I've had a look at the report, and I know Councillor Coleman's done quite a bit of work on this as well. I know we've got a number of councils that have a local procurement policy. I knew that we did. I understand Blue Mountains may be another one. It's not here, but anyway, there's enough to give council some idea of how it's dealt with by other councils, and I know most of them are regional and rural councils, so that tells me something as well. And we've got Dubbo, we've got Cabon, we've got Federation, we've got Georges River, and we've got a proposal, if this is supported tonight, for a Lithgow Council local procurement policy. I think with what's the reports put in place, it's picked up pieces of all the ones that are out there now, Dubbo, Cabon, Federation, Georges, etc. And it's put together what I thought seems to me be a sensible local procurement policy without getting ourselves into any hot water about any conflicts or any governance type issues in relation to it. It works at other places, and I can't see why it shouldn't work here.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman.
I've got about 16 questions, just letting you know, Mayor. So my first question is, were all of the bushfire recovery activities completed through a vendor panel?
What was that question again?
Were all of the, it's in the top of the report, I'll go up to the top of the report, it says 1,372 purchases were made by council and local government area in the last financial year, the local value of 1 million. So the question I have, were all of the bushfire recovery activities completed through a vendor panel? I just want to know.
Mr Edgecombe.
I believe that there were some exemptions to procurement policies that were affected after the bushfires to enable local government areas to immediately respond to the emergency. However, I can assure you that all of council's purchases during that period complied with relevant legislation and council policy.
Thank you. You might as well stay there. I just want to ask, I'd also like to emphasise that the local economy and local job retention and creation is really important. I want to note that 1990 was at least 30 years ago. And is there a more recent publication from the New South Wales State Government relating to council doing business with their local business as is more than 20 years old? I note that in the report that we're looking at yeah, is there a more, we're talking about a number of New South Wales councils introduced local preference policy, particularly in the 1990s. Well, that was 30 years ago. I just want to make that point. And is, in regards to their risks are of such significance that Independent Commission Against Corruption specifically included local preference policy in 200 publication. Is there a more recent publication from the New South Wales State Government when it talks about the ICAC report? Do we have something more recent than that? Because the reports that they're referring to in this are fairly old.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The ICAC report is the most recent report from ICAC, so there hasn't been anything further from ICAC or any guidance. However, the Office of Local Government Tendering Guidelines are due to be updated, and I was informed in the process of putting this together early on that they're in the process of putting those together, so hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months we'll have updated tendering guidelines from OLG.
Look, I believe a robust procurement and probity process will be actually really good. I mean, I think that if we have a secure, robust procurement policy, we'll make sure that we don't run into, high risks, that we won't, these risks mentioned will be mitigated. I note that that there's no mentioning of the Blue Mountain City Council. Some of the councils mentioned are stated as rural or remote location, councils, but we haven't got any information from our neighbouring council, Blue Mountains, because I understand that they have a local procurement policy. The only thing that I really want to say now is that I think the benefits in retaining and creating local jobs, as well as the economic benefits to local business and suppliers, will be really beneficial to the local economy here in Lithgow. And we need to think about local jobs for local people.
Mayor Thompson? If I could, I'd like to add 2 points, either as an amendment or as just additional points, depending on the mover and the seconder, if they're happy to accept them. And that is that there is a point 3 which states that a local business be defined similar to the Dubbo Regional Council definition, but that the requirement for a permanently staffed address within the boundaries of the LGA be extended to a minimum period of 12 months. In the report from Council, it asks for either 6 or 12 months. I believe we should have a 12-month period. And point 4, that Council monitors the cost and utilisation of the policy over the 12-month period following adoption of the policy by Council and report any material cost increase to Council. I think that would give it just adds a bit more weight, I believe, to the proposal that's going forward. It allows us to have a company that must be operating for 12 months in the main street, and that we come back as a council and review the cost and whether or not it has been beneficial.
You can-
As a mover, can I just clarify
Yeah,
a bit? If what Councillor Ring's talking about, that the business should be a genuine business, should not be a casual fly-by-night business, which is picked up in one of the, one that I can't remember exactly which council, it's picked up in there, that it's got to be a business at Dubbo. Yes, I haven't got a problem with that. If what he's saying, that the business must have been operating for 12 months, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah, look, I don't have a major problem with that. Just let me tick that one off. Number 4, is that after the 12 months a review, is it?
Yeah, it's a review after 12 months of the policy being in place to look at the impact and or its success.
Yeah, look, I don't have a problem with that either. And Mayor, my apology, I probably need to add a 5th point, or I forgot a very important part of the proposal on page 30. It talks about the tendering guidelines also suggest that council should also consider seeking legal opinion regarding their proposed local preference policy to ensure the policy does not breach either the Trade Practice Act, the Fair Trading Act, or various international trade agreements. You may have done that already. If you haven't, I think I should add that as a point 5. So if that's already been done, then I don't need to, but I'm sorry I forgot it, Mayor, my apology. But if it's already been done, then it doesn't need a point. But can I get a clarification?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, we haven't received legal
I think we could add that as a point 5, if my seconder is happy with that.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Coleman?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'm happy with what's been proposed by Councillor Ring.
Can we just get that up there, please, just so as we can... Yeah, sorry, Councillor Goodwin or Councillor Leslie?
While we're going on points, I'd like to add a point as well, if it's okay with the mover, if they want to listen to my point. It's before this is adopted, this should go on public exhibition for 28 days.
What's,
I'd like to know why.
I just understand why. It's
I think that if we get some feedback of all of this from the public, at least we can then decide whether what we've just decided tonight with those additional points, we can get some feedback from the overall public whether it's a good thing or not that we're doing.
Can I just seek? I haven't got opposed to it, but can I seek some advice whether that we're just, if I understand it, we're about developing it. If it is developed, then it would go out, as I understand, for 28 days as a policy to be adopted by council.
Yeah,
Have I got it right, or am I wrong?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's a standard practice we would.
Yeah. So in reference to Council Goodwin, we'd have to get this in place, and then it would go out to 28 days for comment. That's the way I understood we dealt with all of our policies. So that occurs, Councillor Goodwin, irrespective.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, and that is that points 3 and 4 be deleted. I would have opposed them had they remained as an amendment, but they've been incorporated into the motion. There's too much of this, in my view, of micromanaging reports. I mean, we've asked for, we support the development of a local procurement policy for purchasing and tendering, and such policy be limited to provisions suggested in this report. I think that's terrific. I don't have a problem with the point 5 that was included in, that's asking for to ensure that the law is applied. But I find that we're now limiting ourselves to what Dubbo suggesting and other things. If you ask for a report, I believe you should allow, the administration here to give us a report, to do it fully, and then when we get the report, then you have the opportunity to have something detailed in front of you, and you can apply whatever views or policies you have. but let's stop micromanaging the issue. Let's allow the administration to do their job, and then when it comes back, we can do our job by looking at it in detail with something structured that we can fully debate.
Has Councillor Leslie got a seconder? I declare the amendment lost for lack of a seconder. Therefore, I shall, Councillor McAndrew, right a reply?
Can we make sure, I'm clear on 5, can we make sure, can I have it up in front of me, 3 and 4, please?
It should be up.
I just note the Dubbo's 3 months, not 12.
That's what Councillor Ring said, that he
Yeah.
might extend it to 12 months.
Mayor Thompson, I'd like to have
P. Button?
I'd like to have I haven't said anything yet, I haven't spoken
Yeah,
to
no,
it
that's
yet.
fine.
The vendor panel system has proved to be a great success. I think it's a great initiative by council and council staff. You can see that there's been over $1 million spent locally and 1,372 purchases. But I think one of the wonderful things is we are not paying for freight. We're getting delivery of purchases quicker than we would be if we had to expect it to come from other parts of New South Wales or perhaps Melbourne. And I think the other thing is that there should be an information session in the near future, as stated, for a lot of new people that have moved to town and have been here for more than 3 months.
Councillor Goodsall.
Yeah, I'm going against the flow here. I went straight to the legal and risk management implications. A local procurement policy would increase council's procurement risk profile, explained in the 2001 ICAC publication. Risks of a local procurement policy are also included in the online government's tendering guidelines. There's a risk that council will pay inflated prices to make local purchases. After hearing everyone's discussion, I'm still sort of undecided. I don't know which way to go, but I was originally going against this. I think that all local tradespeople or companies have the ability to submit for opportunities to compete and complete work from council. And to not get the best tender for the job with the best price and the best outcome for the residents who will be paying for it, I'm not sure about.
Any other commentary? Councillor McAndrew, now right a reply.
Yeah, Mayor, look, just picking up the last position put by Councillor Goodsall, Council's going to put forward a policy. The terms or the limitations of that policy as can be found on page 31 into page 32. Number 3 talks about 12 months period for a person to be deemed a local contractor or provider, and number 4 gives an opportunity after 12 months to monitor the process of it. At the end of the day, council will make the decision whether they continue with it, whether they don't, whether they change it or vary it or the like. So I'm comfortable with what we've put forward.
Thank you. That was the right of reply. I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? Councillor Leslie against. Oh, no, you vote for it. Oh.
It's a sad report we're going to get.
Okay. People and Services reports. Community Recovery Officer.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Moved Councillor Goodsall, seconded Councillor Ring. Councillor Goodsall.
Well done to Rachel Nicol and her team. The majority of projects and deliverables are on track. In in regard to those residents impacted by the bushfires. Hopefully the representations to state and federal government funding bodies supports the roll long into the future as the families haven't fully recovered from the bushfires.
No, Councillor Goodsall said it all.
Any commentary, councillors?
Yes, Mayor Thompson. Last Saturday week I attended a Clarence Dargan barbecue. Unfortunately, there was no other members of council or councillors there. There was a lot of questions pointed at me, which I would have to take without on notice. It appears that to keep the residents down there feeling comfortable and feeling looked after, remembering 32 homes were lost and people walked away with just their clothes they had on. I would really like to request, if it's possible, for Jonathan Edgecombe to have an on-site meeting down there with our Community Recovery Officer, and for Paul Toole, they've requested if Paul Toole could come and look at some of the road situations that they may be able to help out where Crown land is involved and excavators and bulldozers have used that land and ripped it to bits. I went on a complete 2-hour ride in their new vehicle to have a look around, and I found it absolutely horrendous, devastating, and it's real. It is real. These people have gone to hell and back, and I would really think it would be a wonderful gesture for council to have our engineer go down there and just have a look at the key viewpoints that need to be addressed. It was not up to me to even discuss them the other day. And then several people asked if I could contact the state member. I didn't think it was my place to do that, so I thought it would be best to come through council. I think there's some things down there that could be quite easily sorted out. They're not happy campers at the moment, I can tell you. They're quite distressed and, they feel things aren't sort of moving quite in the right direction. They're very grateful for a lot of things that have been done, but there's been a lot of things done that haven't been finished. And I did witness them. I've got lots of photographs of them, and I think it would be a really good idea for council, if I may suggest it through you, Mr. General Manager, to even go down and have a look at I guess a lot of work has been done, but some of the work has not been finished, and they would be most grateful if that could happen.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Any other commentary, councillors? Councillor Goodsall, right to reply?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I was just going to say, I think it's very, very deliberate from that community and from Rachel Nicol and her body organising these events that councillors weren't to attend. We weren't invited, and I think
Yes, you were. Every council was invited.
No, we weren't. Point of order.
I accidentally stumbled on the Clarence one up at the Bay Tree Nursery. And, I think I called you that day and said, are we meant to be here? Was there an invitation sent out? And it was quite clear that for those community bushfire recovery events, they were for the community. So I just want to make that clear to people that we just didn't not attend. It wasn't part of our role.
And also it was the role of our community in Rachel Nicol to attend those functions. Yep.
Certainly received an invite, and Trinity phoned me the day before to say would I put in an apology for Rachel Nicol. I certainly did receive an invitation. They told me that some of the staff and councillors were invited. That's all I know. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
I take exception to that. I know how well Trinity Newton works, and I know when something's sent to one council, it's sent to all, and I can't recall specific invite in relation to what's been said by Councillor Statham tonight.
The invitation didn't come from Trinity.
You just said you spoke to her and it came from her.
No, sorry, what I said was that Trinity contacted me for me to apologise for Rachel Nicol on the day. She was unable to be in attendance.
Okay, then anyway, right to reply, Councillor Goodsall. None? Okay, I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Thank you. 11.4.2, Olgwa Female Forum in LGA.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'll move it.
Happy to second.
Second, Councillor McAndrew. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. New South Wales State Government recently, through Shelley Hancock, has provided not only my board, but another board called Women in Election funding. We were successful at obtaining funding to run forums around the state. I just came off the back of the Australian Local Government Women's Conference. Took me 4.5 hours to get back yesterday from Shellharbour, and we have secured 25 plus forums around the state. My executive and me personally will not be home until the end of May. I've already been on the road for 6 weeks conducting these forums. The state government has a very keen interest in attracting diversity to councils, and considering that, especially in this room, out of 9 there's only 3 women, our target across the state is at least 35 to 40%, like what happened in Victoria. Now, my board doesn't charge the council per se. The presentation is valued at least $6,000. It's not going to be charged $6,000. All we're asking for is membership, which is $275 to join, and the benefits of being an ALGA member for council is that membership is tax deductible. The discounts, the council gets discounts for any conferences, and eligibility for the council to apply to host ALGA conference. As I said, I just came off the back of the ALGA New South Wales conference, and my presidency was continued for another year, which I'm very proud of. And in Shellharbour City, we had at least 100 plus women at that conference, which put money into Shellharbour City. In the future, I would love to see Lithgow host a conference to provide support to the local economy. That's a few years down the track. So what I'm asking for, a minimum of at least $500 to $1,000 for a venue, lunch, morning tea, and advertising, whether it be through our local papers or through social media. I have conducted ones in Forbes, Parks, Liverpool Plains, Lismore. This week I'm going to Narrabri, I'm going to Wagga, and so forth and so forth. So it would be lovely that, considering that I'm the president, that we would have one here in Lithgow. And the proposed date is the 5th of June, because that's the only time that I can get it done.
Mayor, if I, in seconding it, could I just ask a question? So the recommendation is that council consider and set an upper limit for funding the ALGA Female Forum Plan to occur at Lithgow on 5th of June 2021. Could I ask Councillor Coleman how many she thinks is going to attend, so at least we can get some idea about an upper limit based on the recommendation?
In Forbes and Parks, I think Forbes, and Mayor Phyllis Miller is in Forbes, is very supportive. We had 6 women there. In Parks, I had 12. In Lismore, I had 25. So it depends on the community, depends on the size of the community, and it depends on the interest, and it also depends on how far we can reach in regards to media. So there's a lot of variables there, Councillor McAndrew.
So I was looking then based on that, so that's attending, and media stuff will probably amount of 2,000.
No, I would say at least a minimum of $1,000.
All right. Well, if I'm happy to move that limit. Is that enough? Okay. Because I note in the Council of Professional Development that there's still quite a lot left, but of course we do have the Muswellbrook meeting, Mayor, that yourself and I and the GM will need to attend to talk about coal mining, and we do have the Canberra National Council meeting, which will be extremely important. We'll need attendees at that, and there seems to be quite enough left in the pool to cater for that. So I'm happy that Council can consider $1,000 for funding the ALGA Female Forum Plan to occur at Lithgow on the 5th of June 2021.
You're happy to second that? Or part of the motion, you're happy to have that, Councillor Coleman? Yeah. Yep. Okay, councillor Goodsall.
I'd take my hat off to Councillor Coleman. I struggle working full-time and getting council committees and commitments and family commitments done to be out of the town and your home and your children and to be out representing the community. Yeah, good on you, and all the best for this upcoming one in Lithgow.
Thank you. Councillor Ring.
Look, I think Councillor Coleman's selling it a bit short, just saying an upper limit of 1,000. Honestly think an upper limit of about 2,500 would be fair to allow for advertising and to promote it.
Well, that's what I was willing to put first up, but,
That's fine.
well, if that's the case, Mayor, and I don't see it needs an amendment. I'm working on the original motion that's moved by Councillor Coleman as the seconder. The council consider the funding of $2,000 for the Algoa Female Forum plan to occur at Lithgow on the 5th of June 2021, if that's what the mover is happy with.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other commentary? I shall put that then. It says, I was going to say, sorry, write a reply. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your kind words and your support. I do have a fantastic board behind me. I'm one of 15, 16 women on this board, and we work really hard, and I just want to say thank you, and yeah, it's not all done by me. I have a fantastic PA who does a lot of the work.
I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Policy 8.8, related parties disclosure.
Happy to move.
I'll second that.
Councillor Goodsall.
Oh, I don't think there's much to discuss. It was just an update of role titles. I couldn't find the role titles updated, mind you, but that seems fairly simple.
Councillor Coleman? Who's thinking it's Councillor?
No, the report is very cut and dry, Mayor Thompson.
Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried. Unanimous. Review of policy 8.7, investment policy.
Yeah, I'll move that. I don't need to say anything about it.
No, I'm fine.
I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried. Unanimous once again. Council committee reports. Finance committee meeting minutes.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Move Councillor Ring, seconded Councillor McAndrew. Councillor Ring.
Mayor Thompson, they're good minutes. I'd just like to speak to one item, and that is the calculation methodology for on-costs. I raised that issue. We've had a preliminary report come back to the committee, and there's additional work to come back. In relation to the cleaning contracts, the difference in funding, I believe, is largely attributable to how council calculates its on-cost at 52%. Now, in terms of internal funding or planning, that may be appropriate, but in terms of comparing apples with oranges, it's not really appropriate as far as I'm concerned. In the marketplace, most industries and businesses are charging or allowing for 18 to 25% in on-costs. I believe we need to conform with the national competition policy, but we also don't need to shoot ourselves in the foot. We need to ensure that when we're comparing or looking at contracting out services, that we're actually comparing our costs in a manner that is similar and easily comparable to a private provider. Otherwise, every time we do it, the end result will be it is cost beneficial to tender out or put out to contract our services. But other than that, I think it's a good report. There's still a lot of discussion to go, but I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McAndrew.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, I missed the last Finance Committee meeting, but I've certainly read through the minutes. Just a couple of comments I want to make. I note with the issue raised by Councillor Ring that further clarification will be provided with evidence and example in relation to that, because that cost to me seemed way too high as well for that on cost of 52%. The other thing that concerns me as well, though, is the third dot point, is emergency services levy. We still don't know whether we've got to pay that yet. And I think the last time we looked at that, that was a massive amount. I can't recall exactly, but I know it's going up every year. Yeah. We've been given a relaxation of it over the last 2 years, but it's going to hit us sometime, and we still don't know. You know, we're really into the month of March, and we still don't know about the emergency services levy. And the good point, though, on the last dot point, the cash flow update, and this was the thing that concerned me last time when we were pulling from reserves for payment and that, we've got a lot higher cash inflows during February as a result of the rates instalment being due and other stuff being due. The cash flow situation, though, will continue to be monitored, so it's a good report this month compared to our last month.
Thank you, Councillor McAndrew. Any other commentary, councillors? No? Councillor Ring, right to reply? No, fine. I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Community Development Committee meeting.
I'd like to move that, please.
I'll second that.
Moved Councillor Coleman, seconded Councillor Statham. Councillor Coleman.
Now, this Community Development Committee works really, really hard, and the last meeting was at least an hour and a half, and we went through every single item in the minutes, and we took our time and diligence and care, and we came to a really good result. And I must give credit where credit due. Rachel Nichols worked really hard to put this report together, and she put it together according to criteria, and the committee was very clear, and it was an unanimous decision, and we reached a really good outcome for the community. And I'm always a very fair chair. It's about criteria, and if we've got the budget, and then we debate it, and then we come to a decision. So we worked really hard on ensuring that everybody who applied got what they could get, and we did the best with the budget that we had.
Thank you. Councillor Statham.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Coleman. It's not an easy committee to be on. You know, there are so many organisations these days that are trying to get money for their insurances and all kinds of things that doesn't fit the criteria. However, this year, it's quite a surprise to see some of the amounts that some of the people did get, but their application was outstanding. So I would encourage people that are listening tonight or reading results in the newspaper to make sure when you're applying for these grants to really do your homework. Your submission is only as good as what you're going to get money-wise. So there were a few people that have, put in for this many years in a row that were unsuccessful this year, unfortunately. I think it is very imperative for people to really take time to meet their criterias and for their submissions to be quite creative, because it now comes down to I guess the way people put it on paper, we then gauge how much money they should get. So not a difficult decision to know that so many people need money. It's a difficult decision to distribute that money in a reasonable, equal fashion. But we're quite happy with the outcome.
Thank you. Any other commentary,
Yeah,
councillors?
just two questions. It's been a while since I read the terms of reference, but I take it the recipients have still got to be a not-for-profit organisation?
I would believe so.
Yeah. Okay, and...
Mr. McGrath, I'll just get that verified.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I probably just need to clarify what these grants were or are. They're bushfire recovery small grants, so they're not the general financial assistance grants that the Community Development Committee assess every year. So these grants or these projects were called for late last year based on $62,500, which came out of a bushfire and economic recovery grant. So, but to answer your question, Councillor McAndrew, the criteria was that they are not for profit, similar to our normal grant program. Yeah.
And the other question I have, Mayor, is that I note on page 45, the top dot point, discussions the way of improving and streamlining the Australia Day award processes. I thought they went all right. Is there any issues there? I thought they went well.
No, there was there have been a particular mistake made.
Oh, I see, yeah.
It's been verified, it's been handled, rectified, it's been handled in the most courteous manner that could have been. Perhaps an oversight on somebody that's working hard at the council, certainly not intentional. Embarrassing, I think it's under control. We need to move forward, but what we'd like to see is terms of reference. There's been debate on that committee now on and off for many years as to if you're on the committee, could you be nominated for the Citizen of the Year, for instance, or a Volunteer of the Year? I believe not. I believe it's a conflict of interest, as does some of the older people that have been on that committee for a very long time. I think we need to get clarification from the General Manager so that we can move forward in harmony without having this angst in the room. If somebody in the room is nominated and they receive an award and they weren't supposed to receive an award and somebody else was, that is quite an issue for us to contend with.
Well, all I say, Mayor, is that this is a bigger issue, and just for this committee, if there's going to be any changes to this is our Australia Day, any change or any jigging, rejigging or anything, it comes to this full council meeting, because I'm quite happy with the way it's been performing. So I don't want to see any change to it. So
There was just
that won't be dealt with by a committee, Mayor. It'll come to this full council meeting.
Well, all do, Councillor McAndrew, and I think it was just an oversight, and it was just raised that that there was an oversight in the last Australia Day awards, and I just want to make sure that it's rectified. While you're there, Mr. McGrath, can you tell me where Lithgow Valley Archers Club is? Where's that at?
Sorry, Mr Mayor.
Lithgow Valley Archers.
Who is behind it, or?
No, where it is. I'm not aware of where it is.
I'm not sure. Sorry.
It's up Doctor's Gap with the Pistol Club and all that, is it? Oh, I'm with you. Yeah. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, Thompson.
Councillor Ring.
Look, in relation to the Australia Day awards, I believe as a council or the next council should review how the awards are determined. I believe councillors should not be involved in that decision. I believe some of the people on the committee making the recommendation should change every year, so there's a fresh face and that there is no view in the public that there's any political interference in the award process. This year, with some awards that we didn't actually get people nominated for, I think we need to look at it and review the entire process. Not the committee, the council.
So do you want to add that as another point, or do you want to make an amendment, or not just leave it?
At this stage.
Not at this stage.
Mayor Thompson, no.
I think everyone's fully aware of what this council thinks.
Yep. Councillor Coleman, right to reply?
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in council or a place of work, processes are often streamlined and improved. That's the importance of moving forward and being proactive within a council or within a workplace or within a committee. And as we know, every committee meeting minutes comes to council so that the councillors have an opportunity to make comment. We're already aware of that. The main point I'd really like to make, and I'd like to acknowledge again, is Rachel Nicol. She did a lot of work in the report that was presented to the committee. The report was as big as this desk and nearly twice as wide. She put a lot of work into it and she deserves every accolade.
Those in favour? Declared carried. Unanimous once again. Thank you. Operations Committee meeting minutes.
Happy to move.
Happy the second.
Moved Councillor Goodsall, second Councillor Ring. Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Ring.
No.
Mr Mayor,
Yep. Councillor.
there are a couple of things I'd like to just to ask about. In the minutes, standing item 6.1, water and sewage infrastructure update, just reading from the report here, the Director of Water and Wastewater advised that the committee had no written report and that no written report was provided due to water issues that occurred. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, we've been in difficult times over times, and admittedly this was a report before this recent rain, but the whole issue is very difficult. But I have a concern about committee meetings that have no written reports. It's been used against me in the past, and I feel that these matters. So I'm just asking that at the next Operations Committee meeting, that under the standing item, water and sewer infrastructure update, that we do actually get a written report, so that it's there on the public record, and I appreciate that you can't always do these things, and that's not a criticism of anyone on this matter. The other issue I wish to discuss is item 6.6, update bushfire recovery grant for Farmers Creek Master Plan implementation. Now, in the report, it's noted there's $180,000 for weed works along the creek. Now, that's terrific. I think it's. But my question is, does that therefore mean it's a $280,000 for weed works along the creek, which is the $100,000 fine that Lithgow Council got for the sewer leak of 12,000 litres from the Wallerawang sewage treatment plant? That's not mentioned anywhere in the report. Now, I just would like some clarification of that, if I may.
Mr Mayor, we'll take that on notice and provide a breakdown by way of memo to all councillors.
Any other commentary, councillors?
Yes, Mayor Thompson, absolutely delighted to see the bins at Clarence Perry Park, Caperty. I've had a lot of people comment on they've brought more bins back out there, and I think the installation of solar-powered CCTV will be a great asset to the community.
Thank you.
I missed the last Operation Committee, and I did note the additional 12 bins at the Clarence Perry Park. It was confusing because the meetings before we were going to remove them all, and then all of a sudden we've got some back. All of a sudden we've got some back, and I get an idea why the change was made. The real issue is about making sure people don't do the wrong thing at Clarence Perry Park and it doesn't become a dumping ground for everyone and anyone. So can I get an idea why we made a decision to pull all the bins out and then all of a sudden we put 12 back? Like I said, I missed the last meeting.
Mr Edgecombe.
Through you, Mayor Thompson, the decision wasn't made lightly. The original recommendation was to pull out the standard silos and leave those that are still in the surrounds. So that was about 6 of them, I believe. They did remain. However, since they were removed, the sheer volume of rubbish hasn't really changed. There are some users that are using the site incorrectly. That's the reason why we're going to be putting in the CCTV. But the fact remains that the volume of rubbish generated by genuine users, passers-by, park users and those sorts of things is still a significant amount. So we hope to put in the CCTV, monitor the situation, and if there's a drastic change, we can continue to evolve our approach to solving the problem.
So, Mayor, just on that, we still don't know then what is being bought out of the Glen Davis National Park and put into our bins at Clarence Perry Park. So we still don't know. So they're not what I would call usable normal users. That's Clarence Perry Park is not there to cater for rubbish coming out of a national park. So when will we try and deal with that matter?
Well, we've got CCTV coming up, and that'll certainly make a big difference to where the number plates come from. That will. Okay, Councillor Witzel, a reply? No. I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried. TAL Committee, 11th of March.
I'll move that way.
Moved Councillor.
I'll second that.
Seconded Councillor Statham. Councillor Goodwin.
No, the report says it all.
Councillor Statham.
6.2, the Meadow Flat Sunny Corner Road extension of 80 kilometres an hour speed limit. I think that's great. And I must say a great, huge congratulations to council staff and the contractors who were involved with the tree removal from the corner, the T-junction on Sunny Corner Road, Portland, and the Sunny Corner Road, Meadow Flat, down to Meadow Flat. I have had a lot of wonderful text messages and phone calls because of the overhanging trees. It is a great job done by the contractors.
Thanks, Councillor Statham. Any other commentary, councillors? Should put that then. Those in favour? Declare that carried. Unanimous. 12.5, Youth Council.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Councillor Coleman. Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Coleman.
I just think that the Create Lithgow project will be a great opportunity for our young people. I'm looking forward to seeing it. If we can provide as much support to our young people in regards to seeking careers in creative industries, the better. I mean, I have, a 20-year-old and soon to be 18-year-old myself. So I think that council providing support in seeking careers in any form of industry is really important.
Thank you. Councillor Goodwin. Okay, any other commentary, councillors? No, I shall put that then. Councillor, carried unanimous. A business of great urgency.
I have one, Mayor Thompson.
Who was that?
That was me.
Yeah.
This is about as a great urgency, is it? Well, yeah, okay. This was one that just come to my attention an hour before our meeting tonight. It was an article come up on the Mercury Facebook page claiming that residents in Extension Estate have lost use of their toilets as floodwaters backed up their sewage, and that residents have been protesting for 50 years and that our system compares to that of a third world country. Can I just ask if it's correct that some residents in Extension Estate have lost use of their toilets due to this latest water event?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware that anyone's lost the use of the facilities. I am aware that we are having some issues of surcharge throughout the region. But generally, what will occur, it will surcharge in a public space, generally the road or into a stormwater channel. There may be some people that are experiencing some surcharge, but it shouldn't prevent them from using their own facilities. If you provide me the details, I can follow up on that further.
No, that's fine. I just wanted that, there was a claim that residents have lost the use of their toilets and that we had issues that, compared us to a third world country, and I just wondered if they've lost the use of their toilets and their sewer facilities, that we would obviously know about it, but that hasn't happened.
No, the level of rainfall we've had has certainly caused some impact on the reticulation network, and like I said, it has caused surcharge in particular areas. Extension Estate, there is a portion that it will surcharge, but until the rain stops and the flow reduces, there's very little we can do to prevent it. We've done what is appropriate, contacted the EPA and advised them. Currently, they're not accepting any further calls due to the volume of calls they're receiving across the state. So we will work with them in the coming days as far as cleanups.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, forgive me, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Buckles. I wasn't accusing anyone of anything. I just thought that if the Mercury put out such a statement, that there might be
some of our old developments in Lithgow have had there's stormwater going into the sewer, and that's caused us all sorts of problems when we get heavy rains. And
Mayor Thompson,
and that's been ongoing.
if I could we have that item?
Yeah.
The
Sewer, the sewer and the reasons why, but I think we're aware of the reasons why when we get heavy rains. It's a continuous problem because, as I said, stormwater has been siphoned into the sewer over a period of time. And until we get on top of that and get the stormwater going into the stormwater, we're still going to have those ongoing problems.
I've got one, Mr Mayor.
And I have a question.
Sorry, I'd like to. I sent an email to the General Manager and Mr Edgecombe last Thursday. This is before the rain, about the construction of the bridge over Farmers Creek at Burton Street. Now, this particular bridge is built. It's such that the girders are below about at least half a metre below the level of the land surrounding surrounding the creek, and therefore built into the void that's formed by the creek. Now, over the weekend, with all this heavy rain, I visited a number of times, and the amount of water coming down the creek is actually hitting the bridge now. It's not causing any particular problem, but I know there's been a lot of rain, but it's actually over the last 4 or 5 days. It's not been particularly abnormal. It's a lot of rain, but it's not torrential, and it hasn't been 200 or 300 mils in a day. It's been about 150, 180 over a 3 or 4 day period. So the creek has been able to cope with it. But I checked up on my own rainfall gauge, and it was last year we got some rainfall that was heavy rain in the one day. And if you get that, then this bridge over Farmers Creek will act as a dam. It's that far into the creek void that it would occur. Now, I didn't get a reply to my email, and again, no criticism of that. Obviously, this weekend was such that nobody's going to be bothering about a reply to that, and I accept that. But I would like to see if we can get an urgent report, an engineering report on, first of all, the construction of the bridge itself, and whether that bridge is possible to be lifted so that it looks like all the other bridges that cross Farmers Creek as part of this walkway, which is therefore there's an archway across the creek, and secondly, if there's any way that we can just assess the likelihood, or get some historical data as to find out whether the bridge as it currently is in place would cause flooding in particular to the local resident there. And I've been contacted by the local resident there who's been concerned about it for some time, and has been had on numerous occasions has written emails about it, and suddenly he's been shown to be, well, whilst not necessarily right, certainly he has, I believe, quite good grounds for concern.
That Mr Edgecombe has got that well and truly under control, because it does look like it's acting as a dam, and if we got real gully breakers, I could see that it could be a problem. Yeah.
Mayor Thompson, in respect that I've never missed a council meeting, and I was late tonight because of a massive deluge over the road near the Portland Cemetery. I had to go back through Range Road, so I was late for commemorations and announcements. I'm wondering if you would accept them at this moment, please.
Yeah, by all means, I will do that, Councillor Statham, because of what happened.
Our area has yet again suffered two great losses with Lynn Denley, who has been known throughout our whole area for all of her life for giving back to the community and raising a terrific family and doing lots of community work. And of course, Denise Nightingale, who took over the care of Kelly Barrow's children, as you would know. Such a great loss for our town, our netball area, and a lot of other community groups in Lithgow. Congratulations to Lithgow Show Society. At the last meeting of the, and I please would like you to listen to this, please, I ask you just to bear with me for a moment. In the last council meeting on the 22nd of February, item 9.3, my notice of motion regarding the bushfire recovery tip fees, Councillor Coleman stated that we had no money to give them, that being the Alexander family who lost their home and belongings. I immediately wrote that quote down in my right of reply when there was an absolute no support for a rebate for this family of $1,302.60.
Mayor, can I understand whether this is urgent business or not?
It is,
You know,
excuse me.
hang on.
I've been
No.
told by a solicitor. Now I'm begging you to
I'm
listen.
not asking you, I'm asking the Mayor.
No,
This is
I
a
was-
period of
I
urgent
was,
business.
yes, just let me have this, Councillor Coleman. Councillor, you asked me, could you do some commemorations, and I had no problem with that. Now you're on about what we did last week.
No, it's not what you did, Mayor Thompson. I haven't a problem with what any other person in this chambers did. But I was accused of lying. Live stream
No,
and
well,
people
well-
telling me.
Well, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Statham, I'm sorry, this has got nothing to do with business of great urgency, with what you're bringing up there.
So then you would rather me pay for a solicitor and ask Councillor Coleman to apologise to me. She did say that she didn't have any money.
This is out of order
This is
again,
completely
Mayor.
Okay, no worries.
This is
no
out of
worries.
order,
As
Mayor.
usual, I'm not allowed to
Completely.
speak. It's okay. The public are watching. I'm so sorry I couldn't get through what...
Point of
you
order
know.
again, Mayor.
Once again, let me say this, business of great urgency is business of great urgency. Now, what Councillor Leslie came up was certainly business of great urgency. What you're bringing up, Councillor Statham, is something completely that's got nothing to do with business of great urgency.
I was going to bring it up in commemorations and information, announcements.
The other business of great urgency, Councillor Coleman.
I don't believe this is business of great urgency, but I do want to ask a question. I received an email from a resident in regards to the proposed intersection of Lithgow Street, Hassans Walls Road, regarding the changes there. Residents in Lower Hassans Walls Road has received a letter in regards to proposed changes, and some of them are very concerned about it. Is that going to come to council? Is there a
That-
briefing session coming to council on those issues?
Well, that'll go to the TAL committee.
Oh, so it'll go to TALC, will it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And at the moment, they're asking for submissions to go to TALC. So, Councillor, Mr Edgecombe.
Sorry, in relation to that one, that's a state government project that's funded under the New South Wales Black Spot program. It's a direct response to not proven, but actual accidents and vehicle collisions that have occurred in the area. It's been assessed by state government engineers as a sound solution to resolve the problem. I believe the designs have been to TALC, but I'm more than open to a briefing session of the council because it is a reasonably significant change and it does change traffic flow in the centre of Lithgow.
Happy to move.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a confidential report that development DA021/18 was approved for a subdivision of one lot into 8643 Hillcrest Avenue, and a voluntary planning agreement was reached between the parties, and the recommendation was that council endorse the draft voluntary planning agreement proposed by Noel Flynn for the modification 39/19 being for $275,000, in total being $3,200 per residential lot to go towards public infrastructure. The draft voluntary planning agreement of MOD Mod 039/19 be placed on public exhibition for a period of 28 days. If no submissions are received, the General Manager be delegated authority to finalise and execute the voluntary planning agreement. If submissions are received, the matter be reported back to Council. Okay, so that is the final, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much for your attendance.